Hey, what's up everybody? It's Bob Smith from Smith Taekwondo and Pro Sport Kickboxing, and today's video is one that's kind of depressing, but it's also one that every parent needs to pay attention to. It's suicide instructions on YouTube. There have been a bunch of surveys on the media lately that suicide between ages of 9, which is unheard of when we were growing up, but nowadays ages of 9 to 16 are at extremely high risk for suicide. You got to ask yourself why that is. Well, one of the reasons is medication, and they've acknowledged that. Black label drugs, drugs for anxiety, depression, especially depression, and other drugs for attention deficit disorder. Certain prescription black label drugs are extremely dangerous, and we know that every one of these kids who have been an active shooter in the past have all been on black label medication for depression or anxiety medication or medication to focus. So if the age is 9 to 16, what can we do about it? Well, one of the things is give your child some confidence and give them a very strict regimen. Why are the kids killing themselves now? And it's because of bullying. They're being bullied in school. They're being bullied through social media, and they don't know how to deal with it. Well, at one time or another, we were all bullied in school, and we all dealt with it differently. I was bullied when I was little and had 3 brothers in my neighborhood that tormented me. And one day my mom made me go out there, made my brother go out with me, and he stood there, and they made me fight all 3 of the brothers. Now, in today's world, you'd say, oh my God, that's so traumatic. How dare your mom? How dare she do that to you? Well, my mom was right. And the traumatic part would have been if she would have turned her back and let those 3 brothers beat me up for the rest of the time that I was in school. Because after this incident happened, not only did they never bother me again, but they eventually became friends of mine in my neighborhood, and when we got to junior high school and high school, they became friends of mine. Not close friends, but we were always very friendly to one another and cordial. We hung out from time to time. And it's all because my mom and my brother made me fight all 3 of them. Fight all 3 of them as a little kid. I remember that to this day. The biggest brother came after me first. The 2 younger brothers were encouraging him. And he came out, jumped off his bike, hands up, always bragging that he was a Golden Gloves boxer, and, which he wasn't, but that was his story. And I remember my first experience of temporal distortion. Everything just slowed down. I could see his punches coming. I knew when I was throwing my punches, and it was a kid fight. There was no class or flash or martial arts or anything about it. But I just remember that everything really slowed down, and I realized, man, this isn't hard at all. Fighting isn't hard. And they never bothered me again. But today we have bullying and social media. So instead of 1 or 2 people hearing a rumor, at the click of a mouse, thousands of people are hearing rumors about you. That's hard for kids. It's hard for teenagers. And once you put it out there, there's no bringing it back. So how do we deal with it? One is teaching your kids good morals and values. Now, believe me, I've got 2 kids. And as far as I'm concerned, the score is 1-1. I've got a daughter who's doing fantastic, and I've got a son who has hit every roadblock that he could possibly hit. Self-imposed, of course, but nonetheless, if you give your children the confidence to deal with bullies, you are going to make such a step in progress, right, a step forward for your children in everything that they do in life, in everything. If you don't, if you're more concerned with being their BFF, and I see dads, I had a dad that came in here a few years ago, his son, who was a man, got his eye cut while he was sparring, and the dad was livid. Now the guy got his eye cut by one of the other guys who was actually a fireman and a paramedic. And not only is that the safest person to get injured by, but the guy fixed him immediately. But the dad came in, man, and he wanted to bully people. He was like, hey, I've seen you guys, I've seen some stuff. And I'm like, what stuff are you talking? Oh, I've seen some stuff. I've seen him do that before. When you're kids. So instead of empowering your kid and letting your kid know, man, that was a pretty good shot you took. But look, you're still going, you're still driving. The lesson the kid learns is, nope, my dad's gonna fight my battle, or my mom is gonna fight my battle. And that does no good whatsoever for your child to ever learn any mental or emotional development or confidence building. Your kids have got to learn to stand up for themselves. And I have other parents who want their kids to be involved in martial arts, but only if it's fun. Give my kids some discipline, but only if it's fun. Well, that's an oxymoron. You can't do discipline and fun at the same time. So if you really want to make a difference for your children, you need to understand that there's going to be times when they go to wrestling practice, when they go to martial arts practice, when they go to baseball, that they don't want to go. They're having a good time, they're out in the yard with their friends, they're playing video games, whatever. Don't even get me started on video games, but they're doing whatever with their friends who aren't involved in those same intramural programs. So of course they don't want to go. And parents today don't want to give your children rules. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to force them, I don't want to force them. And I have kids in here all the time who are so talented, and they know how to manipulate people. And they roll their eyes at me. I'm like, all right, go in the corner and hold boards right now. And they're over there holding boards for 3 minutes, and after 3 minutes, they're like, I'm like, are you gonna do it again? And they learn from it. But parents are like, oh, honey, let me fix it for you. Let me take away all those bad feelings. And that does absolutely no good to help your children at all. None. I don't care what you say, it doesn't. So, back to the bullying problem. Can you imagine that a 9-year-old, their solution to bullying, to someone picking on them at school, their solution is suicide? Where did we go wrong as a society? Well, I can tell you again, when I was in high school, if two guys had a problem, the wrestling coach took them into the wrestling room and said, you two, solve it. Let me know when you're done. Now, schools are so afraid of lawsuits that even during an active shooter, the schools tell the children to go line up and sit down quietly near the farthest wall, instead of telling the kids to get out and seek safety. Run, then hide, then barricade and fight. Schools don't do that. Schools are like, turn off the lights and be really quiet. They don't try to get them out to a safer facility if possible, or if they don't barricade the facility so that at least the kids are a little safer. They turn off the lights and tell them to be quiet. Go line up against that wall. That's worked great in China for the past 1,000 years, right? So when your child, their solution to bullying is suicide, because another child is either inflicting physical or emotional damage, instead of learning how to stand up for themselves and deal with it, how have we failed as a society? Parents, I can tell you, and I've had thousands of them over the years, over 3 decades, I've had thousands of parents who are like, I don't want to force my kid. Don't want to force him. Don't want to force him. And I get it. I don't want to force my kids either. I never did want to force my kids. I wanted my kids to love it and do it. And they were very successful in their martial arts careers, both of them. But you have to, there are days when I had to tell my kids, get in the car, we're going. Or I'd pick them straight up from school and they didn't want to go to class. They wanted to go home and go play. And no, you're going to the gym first. You're going to train first, then you're going to do your homework, then you're going to go home. And that's how they were successful. And as parents, that's just how it's got to be. It's just got to be. No, I'm not giving you a choice. You have to be involved in a good martial arts program. And I have parents who come in and they're like, hey, I want to sign my kids up, but only for a month. What do you expect anybody is going to learn in only 1 month? And if they're not continually practicing it, and they're not developing a regimen of discipline, behavior, of okay, 4:30, got to be at the gym. Got to stretch out, have my uniform on, be warmed up, ready to train. How do you expect them to learn any discipline otherwise? The discipline that it takes to stand up to a bully. I can tell you that, you know, we've all dealt with bullies. Every child has thought about suicide at least for a moment, but we usually come back to our senses very, very quickly and go, man, that was a stupid idea. And realize, okay, I've got to deal with this problem. And I've dealt with bullies, you've dealt with bullies, but now we're teaching our kids, oh, that's not how you deal with bullies. When a bully doesn't care if they're hurting your child. They want that fear. That fear is the recognition that they're looking for. So when they come up and they punch your child, your son or daughter, or every day they're demoralizing them, that's what they're looking for. They're trying to get a rise out of their peers, who are also punks, by the way. And I was taught at a very young age that you might beat me up, but it's not going to be easy. And that's the same message that kids need to learn today. They need to get it through martial arts. They need to get it at home. And I don't suggest that every parent do like my mom and my brother and say, get out there and fight them. But you tell your child, I want you to stand up for yourself. I don't care what that kid does. And don't tell them, okay, you take the first punch. I've had kids who have told me before, my mom says I'm not allowed to fight. What? You're not allowed to fight if somebody's hitting you, if they're causing you physically harm. You don't know if they're going to kill you or not. They're banging your head on the concrete. I just saw in the past month 2 separate videos of girl mob attacks in high school. One was at Kailua High School, and the other one was in Waianae. And this little Japanese girl is just trying to walk home, and you see this big girl get in front of her and just starts talking smack, and the little girl tried to walk around her. The big girl gets in front of her again. The little girl goes the other way. The big girl gets in front of her again. She tries to run, and the big girl chases her down and beats her in the street. Instead of teaching that girl, you know what? It's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt nearly as bad as laying there and taking a beating. You have every right to protect yourself. You have every right to defend yourself. And all the laws in the world that they pass here in the People's Socialist Republic of Hawaii, all the democratic socialist bullcrap that they post that tells you we're going to pass a law, there will be a new law against bullying, an anti-bullying campaign. That isn't going to stop any of these kids. The majority of these kids learn this from their parents. They learn it at home. So you think that because you went to a pep rally at the Blaisdell Arena or at your gymnasium and no bullies, that's going to stop them? No. They're just going to wait until the opportunity presents itself, just like they always do, and they're going to attack just like they always do. So parents, this is a real problem. I'm going to close this video out. This is a real problem. 9 years old to 16, the highest rates of suicide ever. What are we doing as parents to prevent that? So get your child involved in a martial arts program, a credible martial arts program. Ask that instructor to see their real certificates, their black belt certificates. Know what their bloodline is, their lineage, where they trained, how long they trained. Make sure they're not telling you any bullcrap like, yeah, I fought and tore my patella off and I still fought and won, and I broke my leg and I still fought and won. Or where's your black belt certificate? Well, it burned down in the fire. Don't go for that, but find a good, credible martial arts training program in your area. And once you've done that, put your child in and let them know this is going to be long term. We're going to try this for a year and see how it turns out. Not a month, not a week, not whenever you don't have other sports going on. We're going to try this, a regimented program, at least twice a week for a year, and see how this turns out. And see if their attitude doesn't change. In martial arts, I've had kids here who have had problems with bullies and depression too. But you know what? When they're here, they're learning that they have options. They have options. This is Bob Smith, Blood Makes You Related and Loyalty Makes You Family. Until next time, out.